Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. We're back in the new pub, me, Chris and Pat, to answer your questions. We're shooting this on Thursday at 10 o'clock, so the deadline has not yet passed. Bear that in mind before sending loads of abuse our way for what we're about to say. The first question comes from Yuki Yoshida, who says, Premier League predictions, ? Nice and simple, let's leave it open. Who's going to win the Premier League?
Can we talk briefly, just to say, I think this is the best transfer window ever.
Yeah, I think
it's been amazing.
It started out so well, little lull, and now it's gone supernova again at the end.
Last night, I obviously mute the Football Daily WhatsApp group for obvious reasons. But last night, every time I was in WhatsApp for another thing, I saw like 150 notifications. And I went in, and genuinely, it wasn't people just like quibbling like about like bullshit stuff that's not going to happen. It was like, Ornstein says Dybala is going to Spurs. Now it's off. Like Maguire has happened. Tierney's happened.
Well, 5 minutes
like
before filming this, Demarzio, Dybala to Tottenham is on. 3 minutes later, they won't pay the image rights. Ornstein says Dybala to Tottenham is off. Like, what is going on?
Last night I went to bed and I was just like, well, nothing's going to happen tonight. I woke up this morning and it was like Arsenal fans like posting compilations of Kieran Tierney and like David Luiz having a medical. I was like, what the f*** is happening?
It's like, we forget Eden Hazard's gone to Madrid. Like,
that
gone
did
to
happen,
Madrid.
didn't it?
Like,
Whispers of Neymar to Madrid. What is going on?
Like Julian Brandt's gone to Dortmund.
But you know, have you found that all the players that we spent the last season kind of highlighting their output, particularly on the Extra Time podcast, like Spurs, yeah, like Tottenham, not so much Tottenham, Leicester, Wolves and Everton are kind of snapping those players up. Even Dennis Pryor going to Leicester, that looks like a done deal now. That'll probably be pushed across the line, won't it? Like he was going to Arsenal 2 weeks ago on transfer review. Like they're shopping very smart, the teams that are snapping at the heels of the big six.
All right, so
I don't know. We also said that Pratt was not good enough for Arsenal. I don't know.
But is that grey area, right?
I actually think Wolves have had like a pretty mediocre window. Like, but I mean, what was the question?
It was Premier League predictions. So let's start with our like top 6 predictions. Let's run through them. Who's winning the league?
Man City.
City.
I don't think anyone gets close.
City, but I also think we have to explain ourselves because the fans are getting quite annoyed at our confidence, the confidence which we have in City to replicate their form from last season.
Yeah, well, I think their signings have been fantastic.
They needed fullback depth. They went and got Angelino. Okay, maybe not the most inspirational signing, but solid. They needed
Cancelo.
And Cancelo.
Yeah, Rodri. Get to Cancelo. It's not,
you said fullback depth, so you're right. Okay.
João Cancelo. I mean, getting what 35 for Danilo as well.
Yeah, that doesn't stink of FFP doping at all.
Well,
what is happening there?
Again, we return to Wolves, who've signed a couple of guys who've never played football before for about 16 mil.
And Rodri's looked unbelievable pre-season. So he's that Fernandinho replacement, isn't he? And of course, we go back to the argument that City's underlying numbers, they were good value for their 8 points last term. Their plethora of goals, whereas Liverpool overperformed in attack by 14 was it? Maybe should have conceded a little bit more despite conceding less than City. Go on, you know more about this.
Well, basically, it seems like if you look at like the metrics and stuff, it feels like Man City's expected goal difference per game is like plus 1.5.
It's ridiculous.
Like, whereas Liverpool's about plus 1. That makes Liverpool comfortably one of the best teams in the world. Obviously, good enough to win the Champions League. And we said they're good enough to win that. That wasn't like, a Cinderella run where they got lucky. But Man City just looked like they will do this season on season on season. But I'd be far more comfortable betting on Liverpool to win the Champions League again than I would be betting on them to win the league. So I think they could easily be just as good as last year, but still take a step back just because of a bit of variance in attack or defence. Plus no major injuries really last season. Certainly Van Dijk didn't go down. They didn't lose, say, Robertson. They didn't lose any of their front line. And they've had quite a quiet summer. So like the only way really that you see a path to Liverpool being way, way better than last season is if the Ox or Naby Keita is just incredible this year. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I think they will be great. I think Keita was really spooling up towards the end of the year. And the Ox, I think, has been fantastic, though I think he's never really going to be reliable fitness-wise. It's hard to see the upside in that team, what it is that's going to push them up in a level. So I don't know. To me, I see them as I think they're probably reasonably comfortably second, but I actually would say they're closer to Spurs now than they are to City, just because of the business Spurs have done.
Yeah. I also hope that Ryan Brewster is a significant upgrade on Daniel Sturridge in terms of a backup attacker. And I mean, he was on the bench against Crystal Palace in 2017. He's been waiting an awful long time for his Premier League, well, not just his Premier League debut, his competitive debut for Liverpool. Of course, suffered a couple of horrific injuries. Remember that game? I think it might have been for the under-23s when he had to get oxygen. I think he did his ankle, then did his knee. He got 15 in 30-something appearances for the under-23s last campaign, and he's had a really solid pre-season. He looks sharp. Klopp's talked about playing him all the way along that front three. So I do think, as much as we say Liverpool are going to be heavily dependent on that front three staying really, really fit again, that Ryan Brewster is ready to step into the fray. That's not to say that he's going to replace anyone's goal output. Although Firmino was also down a little bit last campaign, maybe you're hoping for a bit more wiggle room with him.
What's the best case scenario though for Brewster? That he comes in and he's at his age, that he comes in, he's maybe a league average forward. That's what you'd expect from a player at his age. You don't expect him to come in and be like even a goal every other game player. So I mean, he can contribute minutes, but whether he can contribute more than that.
Well, he's a more well-rounded player than Origi, isn't he? So
I don't know. I don't really know much about Brewster. Like, we haven't seen him play like competitive football. Really, we haven't seen him play like top-level football.
But
so
Origi can't pass.
Well, no, but Origi can score a little bit and he can run.
He can.
Like, so I mean,
Good finisher.
so it'll be intriguing to see. Like, I hope that they do blood some of their youngsters, but to me, it's Man City, then Liverpool, then Spurs, and then I think we get into a more interesting territory.
I think Liverpool are closer to Spurs. Spurs have really reined in the gap for me. I'm particularly surprised. We talk about Liverpool not signing any depth in the forward areas. A little bit surprised they didn't bring in a backup left back. Like, I understand that Joe Gomez can kind of do a little bit of a job there, but
James Milner can still do a job there, but depending on
a bit of knock. Really surprised he still didn't bring in a top level centre back to partner Van Dijk.
Well,
Again, putting a lot of faith in Joe Gomez.
Well, they've signed a youngster, haven't they? And maybe
Sepp
they're
van der
just
Berg,
maybe they're just happy with Gomez. And also, Liverpool do seem to have some really good academy kids, and that's how Alexander-Arnold happened, right? They just we had no idea who he was, and then Klopp was just like, well, this kid's going to be great, and it turned out he actually was amazing.
Is it Harvey Elliott that's just signed from
Harvey Elliott as well.
I mean, he is literally 17 years old.
He's a midfielder.
Still on the teat, mate.
16,
That's crazy.
I mean, that's their deepest area as well, Liverpool, isn't it? In that central midfield.
Yeah,
slot.
midfield's really
We
strong.
may as well talk about Tottenham as well, because obviously
Absolute scenes.
at this stage, Lo Celso is, I think, having his medical as we speak, as is Sessegnon, and Dybala has literally just been called off. So if they get in and Ndombele, Lo Celso, and they play them in a double pivot with Eriksen in front of them, Son on one wing, potentially Ali kind of floating around and Kane up front, that is, in my opinion, chasing down Liverpool. I think Liverpool still finish second, but I think it reins the gap in to 3 to 6 points.
If they have some injury luck.
And this is all Arsenal's fault, because they wouldn't have been able to sign these players had you just been able to sustain a bit of form at the end of last campaign. There's no way they bring in Ndombele and Lo Celso, without Champions League football in the absence of European football.
We've been bigging those players up for months.
Somebody did tell me on Twitter, though, that the reason that Arsenal didn't get into the Champions League was because of supporting LGBT pride. So I guess that solves that issue.
All right.
We went up against
Next
Brighton,
question.
and then we were apparently the ones. But I don't know. Yeah, midfield was such an area of need for them, right? And they went out and solved the midfield. However, right back's also an area of need, and striker depth is also an area of need. And currently, they've done nothing about either of those two. So, to me,
this morning about Attal.
If Attal actually happens, I mean, it seems very short notice, but if that happens, then I'll be a lot more confident. But to me, I look at Spurs and I think, you look at teams and you see areas where they could blow up, and in Spurs, it's definitely right back. You're like, if something catastrophic happens there, then they'll still be very good, but you can see a path to them slipping down by right back or left back blowing up.
I actually think that Pochettino is going to go to 4 and start Juan Foyth at right back this season.
But Foyth's just suffered a bit of an injury, hasn't he?
He's out for a while.
Yeah, so I imagine Sergio Aurier, although he's a little bit of a doubt as well. So this Youssef Attal rumour does make sense, and he was Nice's second most proficient attacker last campaign, wasn't he? Admittedly, he only scored 30 league goals, so that doesn't take an awful lot of goal contributions.
He also played as a winger at the end of the season, right? He kept moving forward and forward.
They were desperate, weren't they? Alan St-Maximin was responsible for about 30% of their goals, and literally no one else could contribute. But Attal, dribble beast, isn't he? He would certainly be an exciting prospect to watch. A little bit kamikaze, not the most defensively assured, but do you need that with the current personnel they've got?
Does Sessegnon and Attal then tell us how they're going to play? Do they tell us that they're going to play a back three?
Potentially.
Because those two signings to me say we're going to play a back three.
Especially if Danny Rose leaves, which could still happen. I think if they bring Sessegnon in, you'll probably see Danny Rose leave. I don't see them having Ben Davis, Danny Rose and Ryan Sessegnon in a single squad.
But if you play with a back three, Ben Davis can play on the left-hand side of it, and then you've got Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Sanchez, Foyth, who can still play there as
Yeah.
well. So I mean, in a way, like those fullback choices suggest to me that they're going to play, I don't know, 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 or something like that, and have a Ndombele Lo Celso midfield, which is just like
We
obscene.
have been big in Ndombele and Lo Celso up all season, and they've got them both over the line for a combined 100 million, which is just, I don't know how they've managed to get Lo Celso so cheap. They were being quoted 90 million, 88 million pounds. They've got it done for like
It's
a
really
loan
sad.
and 55 million pounds.
They've done a really good job.
Which is just fantastic business.
Who'd have thought both those players would have ended up at the same club, and a club so like previously unwilling to partake in the transfer madness and pay those? Like, were they willing to pay Dybala 350k a week? You know,
Yeah, I
image
think
rights
so.
aside, let's take that little kind of
I think
anomaly
so.
out of it.
Yeah.
That is mental. Would that have upset the balance, you think, with Harry Kane, with Dele Alli, of course, those pair kind of already pushed their luck with Daniel Levy getting 200k, like 350k?
Yeah,
Is that-
maybe you might be right. You might be right.
Does that
but-
rock the boat a little bit?
Is it not like United? Like we said this when you signed Sanchez, we were like, this is going to cause problems down the road.
Yeah.
But United have the revenue streams to absorb that. Like with Spurs, if Spurs are willing to do that, then you think they must have thought about how this is going to play out going forward.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like these signings to me, this season aside, my worry with Spurs, or hope, you could say, was always that if Pochettino left, I didn't know how they'd remain competitive at the top end of the league and in the Champions League. And now you see how they would. You, like if Pochettino were to leave, you'd say, okay, well, you look around that team, they've got Kane, who admittedly like took a big step down last year and is looking increasingly injury prone. Dele Alli, who looks increasingly injury prone. Eriksen's out, and they will need to replace him in the long term.
Yeah.
But and they need to rebuild a whole back line. But the midfield is incredible.
That spending has intangible benefits as well, doesn't it? You're right, because it also makes them a much more appealing prospect should Pochettino leave. Like an Allegri would want to take over that squad with that personnel, which then again, you know, it doesn't exactly strengthen Pochettino's kind of resolve against the issues that he has with Levy. So it all goes back to putting Levy in a stronger negotiating position.
I think Poch played a blinder. You know, when in pre-season he was obviously raging. They'd made just one signing and sold Trippier, and he goes, I want my job title changed.
But has he? Because I feel
Because
like
I think that's put the pressure on to get Lo Celso and Sessegnon on the line.
they identified these signings at the start of the season.
I think they identified Sessegnon a couple of years ago,
and,
right?
and their persistence has meant that they've got them for these really competitive fees. Like if you're a Pochettino who's kind of showed a bit of emotion, you know, bubbling up beneath the surface, then he might have gone all guns blazing for them, you know, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago.
And I also think
I
another
think
great
Pochettino
move.
has as much power as he wants there, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think as much as we can praise Daniel Levy, I still think Daniel Levy.
But talent identification as well, not just Levy I'm talking about.
Yeah, but we don't really know who's responsible for that. Like, it's hard to know what goes on behind the scenes at Spurs. But I think Pochettino basically is the king of that club if he wants to be. Like, he can. They know that they're never going to be able to upgrade on him. The only question is
keeping Alderweireld as well, with that £25 million option to buy that was available for a month, nobody came in for him.
It's just aged out a little bit, hasn't it?
Like,
Yeah.
But they must have been worried, because if you lose Alderweireld, you have to sign a centre back to replace him. I just don't think Tottenham would have banked on Davinson Sanchez being the guy just to step in and fill it.
And being sucked into the centre half market
Which is not a pretty place
has
to be.
been a black hole for some clubs this campaign. Should we talk very briefly about Harry Maguire then?
What about Arsenal? Let's go Arsenal first.
I
I think they're going to finish fourth. Then about you?
Okay, so we're going down.
Man City,
We're going down
to
the list.
me, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal.
Positional
fourth.
basis.
if you had to bet, you probably would say Arsenal. I think.
You've been the biggest benefactors of this window. Manchester United, like, it looks like they're starting a long-term plan. Chelsea, obviously, the transfer ban. And you've got some really, like, the next great Arsenal side, you've said this, isn't next year, it's probably not the year after, but you need players who are going to keep you competitive and get you Champions League football in the interim. And you've managed to do that with Ceballos, and you've got a perfectly good centre-half kind of stalwart for that period in David Luiz, it looks like this morning, for £8 million.
Why Chelsea? I don't
Clubs
get the Chelsea
are doing Arsenal favours.
What's the Chelsea idea here?
I don't know. They
Why
said.
not keep him and let him rot on the reserves?
Well, I don't know. They said Lampard would talk about it on Friday, which means that they maybe expected him to go today. But he played a lot of minutes in pre-season. He was their second most used centre back. So I don't know. It feels like
it finished with a Zuma Christensen centre-half partnership, and apparently that was what David Luiz was unhappy about.
But he played more minutes than Christensen. Like he played like
My
I
issue
think he played the majority of
is
their
that
pre-season
it feels
games.
like Chelsea are doing, in a similar way when they sold you Petr Cech, are doing like it's a little bit of a favour to Arsenal, because Arsenal were in a bit of difficulty with the centre-back position. I think you wanted Upamecano, but probably either left it too late or got priced out.
Yeah, I think they
and
just
didn't
said
want
no.
to include Emile Smith-Rowe in that deal. And then we're like, oh, we are scrambling a little bit. I wonder if we could get Louis. Why didn't Chelsea just go, no, he's going to rot in the reserves? They don't need £8 million.
Why didn't? Because then he'll go on a free next year. Why didn't
He's
Arsenal?
got 2 years on a 2-year contract.
Is that true?
I think their ambitions just aren't any higher than 6th.
I think Chelsea are just going to bring in all the cash and ride it out. But I think Arsenal. Look, I think they've made good signings. They've overpaid for a couple of them. But basically, if next summer Arsenal were able to make Ceballos permanent and pay one big fee for a top-class young centre-back like Upamecano,
and you have
say
Saliba
they were
coming back in as well.
Yeah, and you have Saliba coming in then. Suddenly, things look great. Like the issue with this window was that it looked like until the last couple of days, Arsenal weren't going to get any defenders through the door, and that was their biggest area of need. Don't get me wrong, Ceballos helps with shielding that a little bit, but we don't have a particularly active forward line defensively except for Iwobi and Lacazette. So Tierney's going to help out. Bellerin coming back is going to help out. Holding, so all those things are going to help out a bit. But fundamentally, the good thing about Luiz is that he doesn't block a path for anyone. So next season we can go out and we can say, you know what, we'll pay the release clause for Upamecano, and then you have a Tierney, Upamecano, Saliba, and Bellerin back line, and that's really exciting.
I still feel like you're going to have a really stodgy start though, purely on the basis that Bellerin is injured.
Everybody's got a gel as well.
Kieran Tierney's injured, and you've got the personnel to kind of go full throttle, but Unai Emery has not really proved to be that guy time and time again in the past. Like, is he going to unleash the attacking force of this squad?
He's had quite attacking sides before, but he just hasn't been very attacking with us. I mean, the signing seems to suggest that he is going to change that. But yeah, that was my concern, like whether those two would gel.
How do you think you line up? With the front three, Pepe?
I think it'll
Alba?
be classic Emery. I think he'll mix and match depending on personnel. I think once Tierney and Bellerin are back, we will see a pretty solid back four most of the time. He'll try and play back four.
What, Socrates and David Luiz?
Probably.
I saw a lot of Arsenal fans on Twitter saying that David Luiz will be a backup to Holding when he's fit.
I think he's more likely that Socrates be a backup to Luiz, but yeah, I think that Holding will probably play when he's fit because Holding was very good last season. But yeah, I think that we'll probably start with a back four, maybe move to a back three after it turns out to not really work, and then once our fullbacks get fit, we'll go into the back four again. So, but Emery always is going to mix and match, and I think just when you're Newcastle away first day of the season. They've got
wait for Joe Linton to climb over David Luiz, bang.
Well, Joe Linton and Alan Saint-Maximin are dangerous players, but you look at that and you're like, that's a situation where in the past we'd kind of pass it around the edge of their box, try and figure something out. Now you just think, run with all the taps open, and so long as I think you need an Iwobi or an Ozil in there, I think you need somebody who's ball secure, because people like Aubameyang and Pepe are high usage players, right? They run a lot, they're going to lose the ball a lot, they're going to do great things, but you need another guy on the other side who can actually keep possession. And I actually think that it's going to be, hopefully it will just be a fun season, because last year we weren't fun, we were fucking boring, and we weren't even good. So if we were going to be boring and not good, we could have at least, if we were going to be boring, we could have got Conte.
Yeah, it's true. Right, should we drop down to United then, because it's been a mess this window. It's not been a total mess. That's probably wrong of me to say. I think we've solved one issue, which is the defence, and it has been the issue for seasons.
Is it solved?
It's as solved as we could get it this summer.
Infinitely closer
better
than you were at the start.
You could have made any of the defensive signings that Arsenal made.
Yeah, potentially, but I think we've made better defensive.
Like you could have got a Upamecano, for instance.
Yeah, we could have, but I think that United, whatever this weird philosophy that we've identified players this summer of trying to get British through the door, have probably got the best centre-back that's available as British.
And since you last won the title, you've signed 7 players for over 40 mil. So while I'm not totally convinced by Solskjaer's kind of vision and his profiling of the aforementioned players, at least there's a little bit more joined up thinking. At least it feels like there's a plan that's being executed.
It's going to be such a young team.
I would say that I've seen zero plan from Man United. That's been my issue this window.
I think he's actually sticking to his word in terms of blooding the youngsters into the squad. Pre-season, they've racked up an awful lot of minutes. The average age has come down. The
average age of our team against Chelsea will be like 22. It'll be so young.
But in that case, why are we seeing Man United and Chelsea as having kind of like qualitatively different seasons ahead of them? Like
I don't think we are.
They're basically doing the same thing, right?
I literally think.
Are your youngsters good? Are your youngsters as good as Chelsea?
I think we're going to have United and Chelsea are going to have almost identical seasons.
Okay,
well,
fair enough.
I mean, the question is that I would pose. I mean, does another manager who has a more successful background, kind of bringing on
Quite
young
probably,
talent, get more out of them? Like Solskjaer's still the kind of unknown quantity in this, as much as like a Tahith Chong is or an Angel Gomez is.
Well, the issue for Solskjaer is, I think, in his mind anyway, whether we agree with the Maguire move solving the defence or not remains to be seen, but in his mind he's thinking, I need a solid backline to allow the youngsters going forward to at least feel a bit of freedom, which is what's not been able to happen over the last few seasons. Our defence has been so shaky, especially in the wide areas, that nobody's been able to play with any freedom. So I think the back four in Solskjaer's mind is probably settled with Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof and Shaw, and he's going to leave that alone.
That's fine though. And you've got a great back five. But
this is where the issue starts, because we've got no central midfielders. We've sold Fellaini and Herrera in the last 12 months, and we've not signed a central midfielder.
Yeah, and this is why Christian Eriksen will be an absolute game changer.
So this is,
this
is also.
I think that you need a DM more than that.
Yeah, I would this is the same I was saying on Twitter about Bruno Fernandes, that the new William Carvalho player who is constantly linked to Man United and never gets signed. I think it's basically I'd rather spend the 60 million we're going to spend on an attacking midfielder on a DM. Matic is way past his best. Fred's output is extremely questionable on the ball.
Imagine if they got like, say they'd said to Inter, okay, we want like Gagliardini and Brozovic like as part of this like Lukaku deal, or in exchange for Lukaku. Then I'd at least be like, okay, your midfield might have got better. But now I look at your team and I'm like, keeper's the same, defence has got better, midfield's got worse, attack's got worse.
Or maybe like a Benson Kerr.
That's exactly what's
like a Benson Kerr at Juventus, because Juventus seem to be having like a fire sale and no one's safe at the moment.
So
It'd be amazing.
I think what you're going to see this season from United is way too much pressure put on youth. I think Solskjaer has kind of identified this thing in his head is, right, what we're going to do is we're going to really back the academy boys this season. We've seen it in pre-season. Angel Gomez, Mason Greenwood, Tahith Chong and Scott McTominay have played in every single game.
5 goals.
Every game.
5 goals from Mason Greenwood would mean more to you than 10 goals from Romelu Lukaku.
Yeah, 100%.
But I also put to you like the hypothesis that what if that 5-goal deficit costs you Champions League football come the end of the season?
I just don't think it will.
I think he's already given up on that.
Yeah, I don't think we get Champions League football this season.
I think Arsenal are going to finish 4th.
Yeah.
But I think one really good signing definitely bridges that gap with United.
Yeah. I don't think Arsenal are going to finish. If Arsenal, let's say Arsenal finish 4th, I think that the question of whether Arsenal will finish 4th will still be in play 2 or 3 games before the end of the season.
I'm really not sure it does. I think United are probably going to line up against Chelsea with that back line I just said, a midfield 2, because Solskjaer in pre-season has kind of been playing this 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
A midfield 2 of Scott McTominay and Pogba, and then Daniel James on the right, as he's played most of pre-season, Martial and Rashford as the left-wing striker, swapping in between, and then in attacking mid it will be either Gomez or Lingard. Like it's going to be a young team, and then Daniel James will give way at 55 minutes for Mason Greenwood. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be. I think the average age of that team is 22 and a half, 23 and a half. There's no player over that, other than De Gea, obviously. Yeah. There's no outfield player older than 26 in that team. Like, it is brave from Solskjaer to put all of his eggs in this young basket, and it comes down to horrendous decision making at the top from Ed Woodward. Still not getting a director of football in. We could have had Maguire at the start of the window for 80 million, so I don't know why it took him 2 months to pay that fee.
Okay, but I mean, we're seeing clubs in a championship. I don't know why this came to mind, but like a Bolton or a Coventry going out of business, and I see United fans moaning about their ownership. And there is obviously certain elements that you justified in doing. But you've signed Wan-Bissaka at the start of the window, who could effectively be your right back. The most problematic area that was, you wouldn't even say Ashley Young's name come the end of the season. You've signed at a right back option for 50 mil, who could be your right back for 10 years, and you've brought in Harry Maguire. Like, 1 or 2 more additions, and you're starting to look like really well rounded.
There isn't
everyone but City and Liverpool are in that predicament where they probably still need 1 or 2 more signings. I mean, Spurs are pulling away from the pack now, aren't they?
But my issue is like, you look at Man United as one of the richest clubs in the world. Our net spend will be like 70 million this summer. Like, there's no ambition there. If you know you're going to lose it,
you don't think you'll buy a forward
if you know you're going to lose Romelu Lukaku to Inter Milan, United should have signed a forward before selling.
But spending big hasn't worked up until now, has it? And I'm not saying that you should chuck that.
I'm not saying you have to spend big. Spend smart if you want to. Spend something. You're not spending anything.
If they bought like 2 £30 million midfielders and a £30 million forward, like if you'd got in Moise Kean instead of him going to Everton, I'd say that makes an awful lot of sense.
Like, at least be in the conversation for a Giovanni Lo Celso. Don't be looking at 50 million on Longstaff up until deadline day and then not paying it.
But you talk, so that number 10 role when you did that lineup was the most unconvincing position, right?
It'll probably be Lingard on the weekend.
So I think maybe is United's biggest failing not freeing up Paul Pogba so he can play in that position.
Yeah, 100%.
And just signing
it's that
like
defensive midfielder. We had to sign a Matic.
Or he's a deep line playmaker. If Matic, you can get a season out of Matic. Or
I mean, we had 4 key positions, I think. Right back, centre mid, right wing. We've signed our right back and centre back. Yes, we've massively paid for Maguire. We've probably paid about right for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. But we haven't got a centre mid in, and we've let Herrera go. Desperately needed a centre mid, and the right wing we've got in Daniel James is such a punt. It's unreal. Like it's so risky. Nobody has a clue whether he's going to be a superstar or whether he's going to be awful.
But isn't this the punt that United fans have been yearning for? Like you've had pedestrian, no one would kind of
and in that time
disagree
we've
that the
also
football
lost
has been
Lukaku.
Pedestrian under Van Gaal. It was very disciplined. It was very tight. You're very defensively
Yeah.
competent under Van Gaal. But it's been Moyes, Mourinho. It's been pedestrian. But isn't Solskjaer sort of making the signings that United fans were sort of getting nostalgic about? In 2 years ago, a year ago.
Who? What, James?
Yeah, well, these young English kind of prodigies.
But we've only
Or
signed
prodigious talent.
We've only signed like Daniel James
He
is
still kept Wan-Bissaka.
like Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, I
Harry
agree.
Maguire maybe a couple of years. Young,
26,
older than
27 this summer. But like we've sold Lukaku in that mist and not replaced him. How can you sell a 15-goal a season striker at 70 million and not bring in a replacement if you're challenging for the Champions League?
Striker.
Like you had to sign a replacement, and if we knew
That's
he was
been a bit
going,
embarrassing, this whole
every
situation,
single
hasn't it?
person at Manchester United knew Lukaku was going. As soon as he went to Anderlecht and didn't come back in training and got
Apparently
fined,
you signed up
we
one
knew
day,
he was going.
like training with Anderlecht.
Well, it's because he was travelling back,
Right,
and
okay.
he then got fined because he didn't come back to Manchester.
And what happened?
We knew
Gave away
that
the top speed.
We knew that Herrera was going, didn't
things.
we? In June. When did he join PSG? Bloody in March he
ago,
agreed
yeah.
to do that. Why didn't we have a replacement lined up for that? It's all well and good putting your faith in the youngsters, and I really am excited to see Mason Greenwood play this season because I think he genuinely could be a superstar. But they've got to have a base. They've got to have a base to play around. The midfield's a shambles, and the forward line is all over the place.
Okay.
If Rashford and Martial don't score goals this year, there's no production.
Now's a half decent time to plug our Premier League Explain video on our brand new channel, which you'll know all about by now, on Harry Maguire and the fact, is he worth 80 mil? I obviously go into kind of detail on that under 5 minutes as well. That's what the video is going to be. Harry Maguire, what are kind of your thoughts on him?
I said it on Twitter, he's a good signing. He's not going to fix your defence like Van Dijk is. He's okay. It's probably a £30 million overpayment. And again, we could have paid £80 million in June. We could have got the deal done in June.
But Leicester have shown this window that they're one of the worst teams to deal with.
Yeah, I know, but they wanted £80 million in June, and we paid £80 million in August.
But if you go straight in with 80, then people are saying, why didn't they try and lowball Leicester? Why didn't they go in with like 50, 60? Why didn't they temper that?
I would agree with that. But don't leave it to 2 days before the window
Who
closes.
pays 80 for Harry Maguire straight off the bat? That is horrendous.
But don't leave it to 2 days before the window closes then.
85. What is it? 85 plus with £5 million.
Or at least
£5
have-
million
I think
left.
it's
Or at least
80
have
with
another
5
target.
million,
Like it
yeah.
wasn't even like we heard anything about another target from Man
Yeah.
United. Like look at what happened with Spurs. They wanted Lo Celso. It wasn't going the way they wanted to. So they f***ed around for about a month and a half, like looking at Bruno Fernandes, or maybe we'll look at Dybala, maybe we'll look at these guys. Like genuinely, there were so many people linked to them in the course of that month, and it really looked like they were going to walk away. And
the
then
thing
at the
is,
end, they went back and got the guy. And you could have done that.
At
You
least
could have
with
had a bunch of.
Celso, they saved themselves 30 million. They wanted 88 million pounds. They've got it done for
Well,
55.
that was a release clause, right?
Yeah, but they've saved themselves minimum 20, maybe 30 million. United have paid the exact same fee that was wanted in June.
But I think Spurs played that well in that they're probably unsettling the player. We don't know about that. It's probably not fair to kind of, guess at that. But I feel like that's kind of what Arsenal tried to do with Tierney, right? If they'd bid, 15 mil for Tierney, kicked up a stink.
I think we bid market value and ended up paying a bit over market.
But you'd probably, I think the fee is very representative of his value to us.
But we bid 15 mil with 5 mil add-ons. Then we bid 20 mil with 5 mil add-ons. Now we're paying 25.
But if he'd kicked off at 15 mil, you'd probably got over 20.
No, I just think I don't really think we tried to unsettle him. I don't think you could unsettle somebody who's like a fan of the club he's at. I think in the case of Tierney, we just made a first offer and then made a second offer and made a third offer, and I think there's an obvious track.
Whereas United went 80 million, we went 55. They went 80 million, we went 60. They went 80, we went 70. They went 80, we went okay. 80. So it's not brilliant negotiating.
I think even in Maguire's case, I think United knew they couldn't unsettle him, and I'm not sure how much unsettling really counts for these days.
Well, a club
Zaha was somebody who was unsettled, and it didn't get us anywhere there. Like, so I mean, I think that generally speaking, it's like you said with Maguire. You don't go straight in and say, "Here's 80 mil." You go in with a lower bid, and then you gradually up it. In United's case, there's always a bit of a United tax, but United could have at least leaked some alternative targets.
Yeah.
That's what annoys me about it.
Leicester are a bit of an anomaly in that sense, in that they're also like, it's like Everton. If Everton want to keep a player, they're so rich now as a club that it just doesn't make sense.
Should we just touch on Chelsea? Obviously didn't do any business, but did still bring in Mateo Kovacic and Pulisic.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
And kept people.
if you're banned from signing players, I mean, bringing in those two isn't the worst window, even if you can sign them. Pulisic, 8 goal involvements in 20 starts last campaign. Like, I think if he gets 10 goal involvements in the Premier League, that's going to be a really, really solid first year.
Yeah.
And it looks like Lampard pre-season is trying to find a way to incorporate Mason Mount and Ross Barkley, which is really interesting. We're kind of seeing these partnerships, these dual 8 partnerships forming in the Premier League, aren't we? But sick, quite comfortably. What do you boys think?
Yeah, I think them and United will be battling it out for 5th. It'll be like, I think the top 4 will be set down to Arsenal, and then it'll be United and Chelsea, and then it'll be not as big a gap as ever before. It'll be very close down to Wolves, Leicester, and Everton.
But I don't think United are in danger of not finishing 6th, where I think Chelsea are in danger of finishing 6th if things go wrong. What do you make of that?
What do you mean? Chelsea can
As in-
finish below 6?
As in United, I don't think United finish below 6th, but I think there's a chance that Chelsea do.
I don't know. I mean, I look at United and I think, like, Pogba gets injured. I find it quite easy to see a world where, where's your midfield if Pogba gets injured? McTominay, Matic? That's horrific.
Can we put some respect on Fred's name?
Whereas actually Chelsea have more depth. Like, because Chelsea's response to having like this transfer ban was basically to keep all their youngsters, it means that at least if one of their players gets injured, unless it's Kante, it's quite hard to see how it's a huge downgrade. Like, whereas I look at United and I think, like, oh, okay, I can see like 2 of these guys gets injured and their season's just dead.
But Chelsea could hypothetically line it up with a front 3 of like Willian, Pedro, and Tammy Abraham.
Well, I think their front 3.
They'll start Pulisic for sure.
I think it's going to be Pulisic, Giroud,
and Pulisic barely
Willian.
played last
Pulisic,
season.
Giroud, Willian. All right, whatever 3 that is, that does not spell like cracking back into the top 5.
But you could say the same about Man United's midfield. You could say, okay, well, at least Chelsea's midfield, they can start like Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic. Like, that's a pretty good midfield.
There's also no goals.
They got back. Well, they've still got.
And that's
they're
a
going to
problem.
play Barkley,
And that's
who's
a problem
terrible,
with
or Mount, who's too young.
I'd agree if they had a 20-goal striker. But if you've got a midfield 3 of Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante, and Giroud, 34-year-old Giroud is spearheading your attack, then I think that's a big issue.
Yeah, but I think Pulisic will have a good season. He had a good season last year.
Man. He's beefed up as well. He looks like he's ready for it.
And I think Abraham will be good as well. So it really does depend.
So we're going for those 2 in 5th and 6th, United and Chelsea. You're saying 6th.
I find it easy to see a path where one of them like absolutely explodes. And Arsenal as well. Arsenal, I don't exclude Arsenal.
Who's finishing 6th in Chelsea's or United's place then? If say let's have that as a separate category. If one team's going to break into the top 6, who's it going to be?
Who's going to break into the top 6?
Leicester. I don't think Wolves have improved, or they've kind of vaguely improved. They're pretty much the same side. And the same side is not a bad thing to be. They're really good. But
João Martinez is a year older.
And they could have gone out this summer and said, you know what, like, we're really reliant on Matt Doherty, and yes, he was great last season, but we could actually go and try and get like a top class player in that position. Okay, we know Moutinho's really old. Let's try and get the next guy who's going to be that guy. They could have competed for Tielemans with Leicester. Whereas what Leicester have done is said, we're pretty certain we're getting a big windfall coming from Harry Maguire, though they could have planned their centre-back situation slightly better in that case. Yes, they overpaid for Iosi Perez. I don't particularly like him, but it's fine. They overpaid very slightly for Tielemans. That's a great signing. I'm happy with that. I just look at Leicester and I just think there are so many players here who are fantastic that I just see they don't look very fragile to me. Like, I look at Leicester and I think there's so much talent. Everyone's young. They were great last season. They're a year older. Manager-wise, it's pretty much a wash between Rodgers and Nuno. So I don't know. I have more faith in Leicester.
The balance at Leicester is unreal.
Yeah,
okay, bring in another centre half because apparently they're not entirely convinced by Sionku down there. He's not seen a lot of competitive football in the last 18 months. I from a personal perspective, think Benkovic is ready to make.
So it's going to be Benkovic and Johnny.
Benkovic is ready to make an impression in the Premier League. If they go after Aya from Celtic, who again not many people will have kind of a knowledge about, but having watched, Aya progressed since we loaned him out inexplicably to Kilmarnock like 18 months ago. He profiles very, very similarly to Harry Maguire, like a really good tackle completion percentage. Like Harry Maguire is like 85%. Like the ability to step out with the ball, he's a hilariously good dribbler. Like Christopher Aya is so good
He's
at
your
kind
best dribbler, isn't he?
of like breaking the lines, which Harry Maguire, you know, in a back three, well, at least for England, he's probably done it more so for Leicester. Actually, in his first season at Leicester, here's a stat from the script wrote, he completed more dribbles than Dele Alli did for Tottenham. I think that was 17, 18.
But he does love a marauding run, doesn't he?
Yeah, but I think
whether it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, I mean, let's leave Wes Morgan back there, mate. I think Aya for 15 to 20 mil would be an absolute steal for either Leicester or AC Milan, and I think that would kind of solidify their claim to break into the top six. But I agree, Leicester have got the most kind of weapons, haven't they?
I think it's going to be Leicester.
I can't believe they kept
really
Chilwell.
Competing.
No.
Yeah, but I just think nobody wanted a left back. And like,
City
boys
did.
but Tierney comparatively, I think people were like similar, and it's like a 50 million
Spurs wanted left back. Arsenal wanted a left back. Liverpool needed left back and haven't got one. City wanted a left back and went and bought somebody back. Like as in there were left backs around, but yeah,
they're
I
all
know
like backup left backs.
nobody wanted one that much. But like it's crazy that they got to the end of this window and Chilwell's still there.
Tierney for 5 million cheaper than Sessegnon is insane, by the way.
Yeah,
Insane.
If Sessegnon happens, still hasn't happened, and whether or not that has hit the rocks remains to be seen. I've just seen a text from George saying that could well have hit the rocks as well as the Palace Vase. So Tottenham's deadline day could be falling apart.
Rings his phone on every set.
Well, it's that he doesn't turn the vibrator off.
Yeah, I know.
It vibrates and he goes.
Winners and losers as well.
So let's just quickly touch on Everton and West Ham. We're not saying they're breaking in the same way that Leicester and Wolves are, because people at home will be saying West Ham have signed Haller, they've signed Fornals, they've kept Diop, they've kept Rice, they've still got Felipe Anderson at the side.
But West Ham have had a classic Arsenal window. Do you not think? Like I love their attacking signings. I think their attacking signings are great. Then I saw the other day they're linked to a guy called Ajeti, like, and I was like, no, I think he's
Swiss.
Yeah, he's from Basel. I looked at him and I was just like, okay, like I assume this guy's a defender. No, he's a striker. Yeah. Like all they're doing is signing forwards.
They signed a lad this morning. I'll find out who he is. But
I mean, I when you call them Champagne Arsenal
they're like Carver Arsenal
under Wenger last week. I kind of agreed and disagreed, but like it's a useful point of reference.
Was it Albion Ajeti?
Yeah.
He's
a striker.
He's signed this morning.
He's a 22-year-old.
Yeah, one and two in the Swiss league last campaign. I think he averaged
4-year contract.
But like that's a West Ham kind of signing of old, which worries me slightly. But they've strengthened it in really like fun areas, but there's still gaping holes in that team. Like they've let Diop go.
No, Diop's still there.
Diop. He's the midfielder let go to Sassuolo.
Obiang.
And so they're still light in terms of like support for Declan Rice in central midfield. Like saw them lining up with kind of Wilshere with Mark Noble, and Declan Rice in pre-season. They need an all-action midfielder to kind of support Declan Rice's development, to transition that. I mean, Felipe Anderson can do it, to transition the ball at the pitch.
Not really though. Like he can't. He can
play him in a free pass.
He does a lot. He does a lot of defence for that sort of player. But like Bakayoko was probably available this summer and would have been perfect, because you look at West Ham and you think what they don't have. They and Everton have been quite similar. Like Everton have also been pumping money into their forward line, and they've gone at least and got Jean-Philippe Damin, but I mean he's never really looked like a particularly brilliant defensive midfielder. Certainly not at the Gay level. Yeah, and you look at Leicester and you're like, if Leicester sold Ndidi, immediately my view of Leicester would go down, because like that role is so crucial in modern football. And the best case, Declan Rice at his best. No one is saying he's Kante or Ndidi or Bakayoko or one of these or Idrissa Gueye, one of these proficient ball winners. Like he's a decent ball winner and he's a good recycler, but he's never going to be that guy. So what's the midfield?
Angisu's just gone to Villarreal.
Has he gone to Villarreal?
Yeah.
Okay, see that would have been fine. Like I think he'll go to Villarreal and probably be excellent. But just go and get a defensive midfielder. Like they were linked to Joan Jordan, and when they didn't get him, they didn't go and get anyone. They just got attacking midfielders.
Odd, but some of their signs have been good. Haller, I think,
some of their signs
is a
great.
Massive upgrade on our now.
Yeah, we've talked about him a lot, haven't we, over the last 6 months?
It.
Really good creative forward who's going to facilitate.
Fornals as well.
He's probably going to pad out Fornals and Felipe Anderson's numbers if they play off of him.
And
that's great. But like get sort of like that. sort of like Newcastle's predicament. What about getting the ball to that talented front line? Like, where does that happen?
It's going to be all Felipe Anderson. Like,
And Heaven Fornals can do it a little bit.
yeah, and Lanzini can do it a bit as well. But like, I don't know. They've got a lot of midfielder. Like, Fornals is a really good attacking midfielder.
Forgot about
But
Lanzini,
Felipe Anderson is also a really good attacking player who can play across the band. Lanzini is a good attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe they've got a youngster in their academy or something who they're really hot on. But like, I look at them and I just think make any defensive signings.
Yeah, I think it's a similar issue with Everton. Like Everton not bringing in a centre back. I mean, as far as I'm aware, this window has not closed yet. So
I think Everton have had a ridiculous window.
I'm backing them to
In a
sign
bad
a
way.
centre back though.
Like, what's going on? Like, they've got 2 centre halves, Michael Keane and Yerry Mina.
Well, they've got Mason Holgate as well, who I think will cover that and probably will cover right back too. But yeah, you look at them and you just think, I don't really know what's
feel
going to
like
happen.
How do they line up, by the way? Do they line up with Richarlison and Moise Keane with Sigurdsson set off them?
I don't know. They don't make any sense to me. I actually hate Everton's window. I think it's a disaster.
The opportunity was there to progress though, wasn't it? And you're thinking, okay, sell Bernard, sell Walcott, sell Morgan Schneiderlin. But instead, they've sold Idrissa Gueye.
And James McCarthy, in fairness, they got some money for that.
Yeah, James McCarthy's gone to Crystal Palace, and I think that video,
For like
the
3 mil.
reveal video was retracted about James McCarthy, the Hamilton academic
Friends of United.
dynamic is lined back up. Their careers have come full circle.
Well, Fabian Delph's come in, so you presume he's going to play in a DM, as a DM.
No, I think Baman's going to play as the DM.
Yeah.
But Baman can also cover centre back.
But they've just, I don't hate the window. It puzzles me, and it feels very they're like
I
shooting
don't
from
hate
the hip.
it. It puzzles me.
Yeah, but I think they've got marginally worse.
Except in midfield, I think they've got substantially worse.
I mean, we all love Idrissa Gueye, and why wouldn't you? Because he's an absolute monster. But if you got 30 million and reinvested, like if they went and got Sangare for like 22, 23, I'm bored of banging on about Sangare, but I don't know anything about this. It depends how good this kid is, Mbia. Well, not Mbia, that's Stefan Mbia. What's his name? Baman. Yeah, it depends how good he is. Really.
But I mean, like last
But he's
season.
still not a centre back. They still ain't got no centre backs.
Yeah, exactly. And I just look at them and I think. Also, it's hard to see a home for Sigurdsson. Like, I mean, if they were going to play a 3-man midfield and say we're going to play Gomes, we're going to play Bama, and we're going to play Delph, then I think, okay, maybe those 2 guys, not the Gomes, maybe those 2 make up for Gay to some extent. But then I think, well, there's no home for Sigurdsson, and
All
I
they
don't know.
played in the final third last season was all Sigurdsson. He didn't touch the ball in the middle of the pitch, but I
didn't like him.
think he was in like the bottom percentile for like passes completed in midfield. But then in the final third, he was like in the top 2 or
But
3.
they're
just
in
a
the Premier
forward.
League.
He
But
was
they're
just a
also
second
so
striker, really.
cash rich. Like they had a £70 million cash offer plus 2 players rejected for Wolves Zaha.
I think
I have no idea what.
I kind of tatted Bruno Fernandes for them like 6 months ago. Why not kind of join that race? But
He
that's
don't
just
exist as a player,
But that's
Bruno
just
Fernandes.
another
He
attacking
don't exist.
midfielder. Like, I mean, if you can get rid of Sigurdsson, sure, but like.
If they-
Bruno Fernandes going to do
Sign
nothing.
a centre
Bruno
back.
Fernandes and Andre Gomes are going to do.
Yeah.
They're going to be too similar.
But
I
like
think.
balance aside, which is a bit not a great thing to say, but like going after a player like Bruno Fernandes is the sort of like would have been a step forward for Everton. Whereas I feel like they've kind of taken like they're not even taking a step sideways. They're doing like the Irish jig, mate. They're doing like line dancing. They're all over the shop.
Yeah, they are absolutely over the shot. So let's just rattle off our kind of
Top 6 and Europa League.
top 6. So we go in. I think we're all in agreement. City, Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal,
Yeah.
Sure.
United, Chelsea.
Yeah.
You going Chelsea, United?
No. I don't know. No, I'll go United, Chelsea.
United, Chelsea. Then Leicester, Wolves, West Ham, Everton.
I'd go Leicester, Wolves, Everton, West Ham.
I don't know. I'll go Leicester, Wolves, and then I have no idea below that.
Okay. About relegation teams then. Let's touch on relegation.
Sheffield, straight down.
Sheffield United.
What do you mean?
In agreement.
Feel the McBurn for 20
I
mil,
like
mate.
McBurney. And
Do you? Because I actually put him as my potential flop down.
I like McBurney a lot. I think he's a good player. I'd actually have more money on Che Adams to flop. But I don't know. Chris Wilder's a really good manager, but like there are lots of really good managers in the Premier League, and you just look at that team and you're like, everyone who
Sheffield
contributed
United.
on this side last season was old.
Yeah.
We kind of covered this on the Extra Time podcast as well, which is going live today. I put McBurney forward as a potential flop purely because I think last season Sheffield United were like 12th in the Premier League in the Championship for shots created, and even worse for shots inside the box. And that is kind of where McBurney profiles really interestingly. He's a guy who doesn't generate a lot of shots, but when he does, like 0.5 of 2 point something per game, things like 2.1, were inside the 6-yard box.
That means headers.
Headers.
Probably,
But
yeah.
He's a big bloke as well.
Well,
tall lad.
0.7 of his overall shots were headers. But
And it
like,
was all Daniel James getting to the byline, whipping it in, and Ollie McBurn just
yeah, but still, that's like really weird. I saw Ted Newton compare him to like Miroslav Klose, which was hilarious. But like, he's an interesting player, but I don't think that Sheffield United are going to like be creating high quality chances for strikers that prosper inside the box. Is what I'm saying. That's why I put them down as my flop.
Yeah, I
and
think
Sheffield United, I think.
I
nailed
think
it.
So, it's
Sheffield
the same as Joel Linton, right? You look at Joel Linton, you're like, Joel Linton's a great player. It's possible he has a terrible season just because like he's playing under Steve Bruce at Newcastle. Like, his supply line is one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we go in Sheffield
What's that
United
maximum?
down.
Yeah.
I'm going Norwich is my second candidate.
Made no signings really,
Down-ish.
except a keeper, right?
Not a big fan
Someone
of the
DM'd
squad.
me saying Joe has ignored my message.
Yes, I have, because everybody's getting on
if-
to me.
If
I'm telling
Timu
you.
Pukki scores over 10 goals, I'll give him £100 to donate to charity, and if not, then something else.
Well, whatever. Timu Pukki's not getting 10 goals in the league this season, and he scored what?
Depends how many pens they
104 last season for Norwich to get him up. I don't see a world in which Norwich stay in this division. I think they've had an awful transfer window. I think Farke's a mediocre manager, and I think Timu Pukki's not going to score any goals.
I have more faith in Norwich
Why
than
do you
I do
think
in
he'd be
Villa.
mediocre?
I think first game of the season, Norwich will lose 6-0 to Liverpool, and it'll all fall apart. They're away. They're
They
away
do
at
traditionally
Anfield.
Then when
lose
he gets,
6
They're away at
when he gets his
Anfield.
teeth in someone, it started with Pukki, and now he hates the whole of Norwich.
Mate, I actually
Pukki
quite
is
like
an issue.
Pukki.
Pukki is an
but,
issue.
Like, they're away at Anfield first game of the season, and I've just got horrible, which is
But-
simply been a bloodbath.
But you also look at someone like Dribble, like he's pretty good.
Max
like
Aarons.
their fullbacks are pretty good. Buendia's excellent. Like I mean, I don't know, they've got players. I look at Villa and I think Villa have spent so much money this summer, and do you know what they've done? Not improved. Like they aren't really much better. Is Marvellous Nakamba great? Probably not. Like is Matt Target great? He's probably okay. Like Vesley could be good, but at best he's going to be good. He's certainly not going to be spectacular. Like I saw Villa fans going absolutely berserk on Twitter because they'd found like a clip of us saying that Villa was. And they were
Not
going,
hard to find.
and they were going wild, and you're just like, why are you so mad? Like, if you think we're wrong, there's no reason for you to care. If you think we're right, then like, why are you angry with us for saying what's obviously true? And I look at them having spent like, what is it, 140 mil,
Yeah.
and I think this still looks like a relegation team.
So
But they
you're
should-
going for the three promoted teams to get relegated?
I don't know about Norwich.
They-
I'd have more faith in Norwich than Villa to stay up.
They should have had.
Villa look horrible.
Villa should try to have had the summer that Brighton have just had. Like I feel like for that money, like Brighton signed Mbappé. What that's even if it maybe I'd have taken him over Che Adams, I'd have taken him over McBurney most certainly.
Yeah, I'd have taken him over
Mbappé,
both
like
those.
3.5.
Was it Webster they brought in as well?
Yeah, Webster. But these were outstanding players in
And
the Championship that looked like they could bridge. They looked like they could cross over into Premier League players.
Well, Villa have done that with
Webster
like
was
a
great
Jota.
for Bristol.
Yeah, but Jota's like 27
Yeah.
though.
But
right?
Kay was 3.5 tackles.
Very good in the
3.5
Championship.
tackles and interception, 3.5 shots per night. Like whereas the other clubs around in and around them have bought players that look like they'd have to play at their very, very, very best to be like bottoming Premier League.
So
players.
do you think?
Is that word?
Do you think
Bottoming?
the three promoted teams? I think the third team. I would go Sheffield United, Norwich, and then a battle between Newcastle and Burnley. And
Do you think Villa will stay up?
Yeah,
Wow.
I do.
I'd have more faith in Burnley. But I mean,
Burnley's business this summer has
Difficult.
been is very reliant on Jay Rodriguez starting well and not breaking his knee within the first week.
Wow, we're reliant on Jay Rodriguez. What a line! I'd definitely
It's
yeah.
not good, is it?
Sheffield. What did you go second? one?
Sheffield United, Villa, Sheffield United, Norwich, and then I think I'll go Burnley. Third team going down.
whoa, yeah, amazing that we think Newcastle might stay up.
Just
Oh my
because
God.
I think they might have enough firepower to score
No,
goals.
Burnley are going to do it again. Burnley are going to defy the odds, defy expected goals, and I think they're going to stay up on it. I agree more so with your first statement between Newcastle and Villa.
All right, go on then. Pick someone. Put your neck on the line. I'm going Sheffield United, Villa. No, Sheffield United. That's why it's a Villa.
'Cause Villa-
Sheffield, Norwich,
Yeah.
and Burnley.
I mean-
Sheffield, Villa.
I'm going to go Newcastle. Despite their signings, I think that I like their signings. There's still a bit of a balance issue in the centre of midfield, and they're one injury away from up front from being awful again.
Burnley was just better than Newcastle last season. Burnley was just okay last season. Like I mean,
So who says
I've
then?
not thought about this.
Newcastle, Newcastle, Villa, Sheffield.
Newcastle, Villa, Sheffield.
Down, down, down.
Sheffield, Norwich, Newcastle.
Oh, Should we do like a top goal score or anything like that?
Should do it very quickly because Kieran's doing this behind the camera because I think he's anticipating doing about 60 minutes of overlays.
Okay, right, let's do it very quickly. Let's include it as a quick fire question actually. Moving on to quick fire questions now. Who's going to be the top goal scorer? This is submitted by me.
Aubameyang, maybe.
Unprecedented scenes.
Aubameyang? No,
Aguero.
I don't think Aguero's fitness is good enough.
No, yeah, I think Aguero.
Really?
Yeah.
Think he'll stay fit?
Or Mo Salah.
I think Aguero's
Yeah,
going to
almost.
have one last incredible season before he starts to kind of slowly deteriorate.
Okay, let's continue with quick fire questions, and we're coming outside of the Premier League now. Mellow Man says, how do you think Luka Jovic will fare this season?
Good. I hope they start with him over Benzema. Like, I mean, he's just a good penalty box striker, and I think Eden Hazard's going to be a really good supply line, and Vinicius is going to be a good supply line, and they've just got a ton of creative quality, and they've had no one to finish chances. Benzema had a good season last year. Pretty certain he wasn't going to do it again. So, and I think he's a much more natural fit with Hazard than Benzema is.
I still think there's issues that they haven't brought in a central midfielder though, to Madrid.
Yeah, I agree. What can you do?
Yeah, they should have got Pogba.
Or anyone.
Yeah.
They could have got Lo Celso or Ndombele, but no.
Okay, the next one is from Jacob Westborough, who says, who is the most underrated player across Europe right now?
Jesus. It's always a trap.
This is a huge question. So I'm just going to go with an answer that I provided to a slightly different question on the podcast, which was, I think we went for like kind of biggest like miss scenario. That's a really poor way to articulate it. But after kind of 6 months of you talking about Dodi Lukebakio, I actually took a look at him, and I was like, why haven't Watford kept him?
Gone to Hertha Berlin now.
Yeah, and Hertha Berlin are fast becoming a little bit like Leipzig, and they're hoovering up an awful lot of interesting talent from across Europe. And I think if they brought in Ismail Assar from Watford for 27 and sold Lukebakio for 20, then that represents poor business. Not really answering your question. I was kind of buying a bit of time. Underrated. I think that's got to be that's a headline topic, isn't it? Like underrated.
It is harsh to include that. I would probably say Marco Verratti. I think Marco Verratti.
Still.
Nobody puts any
Who
respect
doesn't rate
on Marco. Loads of people.
Are you mad?
Loads of people. I've seen so many fans saying that they think the starting PSG midfield should be Herrera and Idrissa Gueye as a DMs, and then Sarabia in front of them this season. And it's a disgrace that Verratti's not been the first name on that team sheet.
Doesn't spell Champions League semi-final to you, does it?
No, I mean they've signed loads of like £30 million players. Isn't it? Like 130 million.
What about underrated in like one league we haven't covered? Underrated in La Liga. Anyone that you can think of?
They've all moved.
Yeah,
All of the
Junior
underrated players
Firpo's
have
gone to
moved,
Barca.
haven't they?
Santiago Caceres at Villarreal potentially. Nice. I mean, to me, the most underrated player in Europe is going to be Alan until the day he retires. Like, we're the only people who give a fuck about Alan. Like, and he's good enough for any team in the world. So.
Let's go to personal questions then, because I feel like we've been shooting for about an hour and a half and don't know whether we have at this stage. This one was sent in by Anderson Howard. He says, what's your favourite dog breed?
Great.
Memphis.
Now, yeah, we do have a Sunday Vibes dog. Did you talk about him last week?
He's like a pug Frenchie cross, isn't he?
We tweeted about him, for sure.
Yeah.
He was like our PR machine for the new
Image
club.
of Memphis on the screen right now. That is the new Sunday Vibes pub dog.
I like a chow chow.
I honestly don't mind. Like, they're just... I'm working harder to get a bigger flat so I can have a dog. Yeah. That's just my life goal.
Jack Russell, I think mine.
Really?
Yeah, consistent.
Very,
very
you are
so-
such a Jack Russell.
It's just so hard to have one in London. Like,
They need an open space.
if there's
not fair,
if there's nobody at home who can look
Yeah.
after them, you just can't do it.
You know, people who have those apps, it's soul crushing that, you know, like you can talk to your dog when they're at home, and like people just see that when you're not there, the dog's just waiting at the door, like the entire time until you're back.
Yeah.
That's tragic, mate.
Separation anxiety, that's called in dogs. Some dogs get it really
In
badly
dogs.
and have to go to the pet.
Have to go to the pet.
Have to
to
go
go
to the
you have to go to
have
the
to go
vet,
to the
don't you?
vets.
Yeah.
So-
How are your new fish?
Fish are alright.
You've got fish.
You called one Phelan?
One's called Kenny, one's called Jeffrey.
What kind of fish are they?
Goldfish.
You missed out feeding the fish. You could have actually had a feeding the fish.
Oh, I could have.
You moron.
Mike Phelan the fish.
Right, crap. We'll buy one.
Shout out to Mike Phelan, by the way, who actually, I think, gave Harry Maguire his Premier League debut and is now working with him again.
Yeah.
At Hull City. So, you know, when they had Andy Robertson and Harry Maguire.
And yet got relegated.
Either way, that is the end of this week's Sunday Vibes. If you want to be involved in the future, send us your questions. Make sure you check out the Extra Time podcast where Chris, George and Duyu went even deeper into Premier League predictions. Anything else to plug?
No, I think
The new channel?
We've done it all throughout the episode. Yeah, Premier League Daily is something we're really, really excited about. It feels like Football Daily have kind of we've been building up to something like this. The thought of actually lawfully using Premier League footage 3 years ago is absolutely inexplicable. So now we can. Let's see what we can do with it. And if you're from the UK and Ireland, then please be a part of it. If not, sorry, we don't have worldwide rights, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, thanks very much for watching. Bye.